2021, the Not in Perspective. And joining me to discuss today is Ismail Musa. He is the Director of Strategic Communication for the Coalition of Northern Groups. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me today. All right, there's been many conflicts in the north, which has affected thousands of lives and livelihoods of millions of people. Talk about Boko Haram, the bandits, and also the killer herdsmen. Speaking for your group, tell us what exactly is going on there in the north.
What's going on is unfortunate. It is what is known to the whole world. That there's been this issue of killings, senseless killings going on in northern Nigeria. Nowhere in the whole not having fears without having your heart right in your mouth as to whether you're going to get there safely. And I mean, we've even gone past the era of where people usually pray against accident when they're traveling. Nobody really bothers about accident anymore. Nobody bothers about armed robbery anymore. The fear is about kidnappers, bandits, terrorists, and all of that. But I can tell you lately that what's going on in some part of the country is even not banditry. It's what I can simply call genocide. It's the genocide going on against some sort of people. And that's very unfortunate, that Nigeria has gotten to this stage where the destruction of lives and property does not really matter anymore. Gone are the days where you hear five people died somewhere and everybody's cringing like, wow, how did it happen and everything? But we've gotten to a stage now where when you say 100 people died somewhere, it really doesn't mean much to anyone. I mean, it's just like saying a truckload of cows had an accident. Even at that, back in the days, people still feel very, very sorry about it. But so that's just to tell you how much of part of us this has been. Gone are the days where we see bombings happening in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and we're feeling, wow, what kind of people are this? And this is happening right here. This is like a dream. Some of us wish somebody's going to wake us up one day and say, oh, enough of your dreams. That all this happening was just a dream. Now wake up to reality. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's not happening. There's endless, only God knows where this is going to end. And unfortunately, people who you think will come on board to come and salvage the situation actually right under their nose, the country is getting worse. Nigeria is actually at a brink of anarchy. I mean, that's just even understatement to say that. What is happening in northern Nigeria now is not something anybody can actually describe, because if it didn't happen in your domain, or if you did not get it firsthand, or if you didn't get some testimonies from the people who are actually in the heat of those things, you really cannot imagine what is happening. You can just be thinking, oh, well, perhaps the media is actually hyping it, but I can tell you for a fact that this has been underplayed even in the media. What is happening is not what anybody actually ever envisage or ever imagine can ever happen, especially in the most safest places in northern Nigeria have been overtaken by bandits. And that's where we are today.
Yeah, over the years, the government has tried to appeal to these people. They appease these people. They've used many means. Even the Kaduna government paid them, some amount of money. And we have heard about the Boko
Haram. Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
I said over the years.
The government is trying.
Yes, over the years, the government has tried to appease the Boko Haram bandits and these killer herdsmen. We've heard about the repentant Boko Haram and the fact that Kaduna state government also paid them some amount of money, but they still continued. Now, wow. Tell us about these moves by the government.
Honestly, I didn't hear 70% of what you say. I don't know if you can say that again, if it will be clearer.
I said over the years, the government has actually tried to appease, the Boko Haram, the bandits, the killer headsmen. The Kaduna government paid some amount of money to, the Boko Haram for them to stop this, these the activities, but they still continued. And we've heard about, the repentant Boko Haram, how they are reintegrated back into the community. I'd like to ask you, what do you think about these moves from the government?
Okay, if I can get you clearly, you are asking about what do I think? What's my think about the government reintegrating the repentant Boko Haram back into the society? Is that what you mean?
Yes, the government reintegrated them, and also other means that they've actually used, to appease this terrorists. I mean, those terrorizing the country.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't think the government has done enough. You see, honestly, if I want to be very frank with you, I'll tell you the peace of our minds in the sense that this thing didn't start under this government. So one will think that for a government that is going to be led by a retired military general, they have all the answers to all these issues before they came on board. One would think that a government that has seen it all from the audience, or that's the audience watching it live, in the theater of the previous government, you would think that, okay, they were not just running around campaign grounds, sermonizing how they come in to clean up the system, but they also have seen the whole thing. Because sometimes when you're watching football, you seem to see the lapses more than the people on the pitch playing. So you would think that they already have the answers before they came on board, because just nothing is new to them happening today. But unfortunately, not only that they were not prepared, even when they got to office, they didn't seem to be ready to do nothing. It doesn't appear to anyone, or at least to quite a lot of us, that this government was willing or still willing. It was a government that came on board 6 months after. They're still trying to collate the name of ministers. After announcing who are the ministers, this issue of insecurity in northern Nigeria started rising by the day, skyrocketing. The numbers of casualties tripling what they met on ground, and yet nothing seems to really make any sense to them, or otherwise, nothing seems to really be working to say, oh, we're actually on top of this. You see, it's a different thing to always issue statements to condemn this killing, to condemn that killing. I will assume that a serious government will be doing more to actually stop those killings than the number of statements they are releasing. Because if this strategy is not working, it's for you to adopt another strategy. If this is not working, it's to look into why is it not working? What do we need to do? You understand? Sometimes people will have to cry and cry, shout and shout in the media to say, can you please change the service chiefs? If after 3 years, reluctantly, the man actually agreed to change the service chiefs, there is no clear-cut mandate to say, you're coming here for 6 months. If I didn't see results in 6 months, I flush you out, another set is coming in. This is what we're going to be doing until we get a clear-cut direction to say there's a stop to it. You see, the problem is this. When human life does not matter to a leadership, or a leadership that feels too arrogant to actually, listen to the people they are coming to serve, these are the kind of things you get in the long run. The other time, about numbers of people in broad daylight were roasted alive like chicken. And yet, we saw the presidency partying all around the place. We saw the son of the president in the same zone being turbaned. This is heartbreaking for quite a lot of us. It makes people's hearts to bleed that, look, you still have the time to party. When are we thinking that you should be sleepless? At this time that these killings are actually skyrocketing by the day. So if you still have time for all these frivolities, it does not show to any one of us that you're actually coming. This is about the 6th or 7th year. You're still talking about opposition, talking about you still playing blame games. It's an insult to the people who are losing loved ones on a daily basis. The same people who actually lost their money, lost their resources, wasted their time trying to bring you to power. It's like just rubbing it on their faces to say, look, come on, life will have to go on, even though you lost your loved ones, but we don't have the solution yet. It's unfortunate that under the same government that had the largest of its votes from northern Nigeria, the whole of northern Nigeria is actually on fire right now, and they don't seem to care. So if you're asking me about what's my take or what's our take from the coalition, we have been saying this to them. There was no time we were silent about it. A government that is more serious or paying more attention to gagging the people rather than addressing the issues where the people are actually making the noise. If you feel they are noisemakers, I think you should invest more time in trying to address the issue, so that when you address the issue, you now see whether they're still going to be making the noise or not. So if a government is, giving more attention to the people who are perceived to be the noisemakers rather than the people who are creating the problems, then they don't seem to be serious. That's our take. They're not serious yet. And I don't think there's any magic they can perform because they have about just a year to go. But what we're begging them for now is, because the human life is very, very important. It's very key. If you can do something, in fact, if you can take us back to the insecurity you met when you came on board, that would be tolerable to a large extent to say, well, you see, he has taken us back to the Jonathan's time that we are crying about. The killing at that time, the statistics are there to speak for itself. So really, as far as we're concerned, it's unfortunate that we have this kind of people ruling us at this time.
All right, Director, you talked about some other things. I would like you to talk about the repentant Boko Haram. Do you think they should be reintegrated back into the society?
You see, the point is this: even if you have to reintegrate those kind of people into the society, I feel there are procedures. You understand? I did not see where these people were being profiled. There's no any proper profiling of these people you try to reintegrate into the society. If anything goes wrong today, there is not any mechanism in place that says you actually put a tab on these people, you can track them. There's not any follow-up system in place to say we're following up to know what they are up to in the society where they're going to be integrated into, or they have been integrated into. So really, in the absence of this, I don't really think there's any serious thing you can tell me. There's nothing serious you can tell me that you put in place, that is going to be like some kind of protection to the people you're trying to integrate them into. Because sometimes when people seems to be out of some supply, perhaps because we hear in some instances where they ran out of food, and because of that, the hunger was hitting them badly that they had to come out to surrender. And then they started coming out in their hundreds to surrender because of hunger. So when you say you integrate that kind of people, how sure are you they're actually repentant in actual sense of repentance? What tab are you putting on them to say, well, in whatever society you go, or even if you go outside the shores of the areas that are marked for you to stay, we can actually track you. You understand? We know what you're up to. We know who you're communicating with. There's nothing in place. Unfortunately, when you will know that this whole thing is so wrong, is that some of them were now taken from the northeast and integrated into Kaduna states. How on earth can you do that? Kaduna itself has been a hotbed of banditry, where kidnappings is actually, it has become a hotspot for kidnapping. And then you bring people from the northeast who are Boko Haram terrorists who say they are repented, they've repented. Then you did not see any other quiet place to take them to in the whole of northern Nigeria. You take them to Kaduna State. What are you saying? You can go join your people in banditry. You can leave Boko Haram. You can leave bombing. Go into banditry. That's what you're telling them to go and do. Because if I say, oh, I was a smoker, and you ask me, are you really serious? You stopped smoking? And I said, yes. And you asked me, how long ago? And I said, just 2 weeks back. You cannot take me serious yet. Until I said, I quit smoking 2-3 years ago. Or a year ago, you can begin to take me serious. Somebody who was out of, this starvation came out to say he's raising his hands to say he is no longer into that. Then you take him from that place and take him to another, hotbed of criminality. I don't really see any logic in that. And this is the kind of things we see all over the place, all over the country, or all over northern Nigeria on a daily basis. You see strategies that are not being tested anywhere, or that you cannot see any logic in that. So as far as we're concerned, reintegrating them into the society, especially in societies where they are not known, eventually aggravated what has been happening in those places. And that's why you see banditry actually started soaring higher even in Kaduna State after this reintegration. So really, we don't see any sense in that.
Now, this Buhari-led administration bought many weapons, including the fighter jets. Now, why have this measures, these things that they bought, why has it not stopped this insecurity in the country?
Well, I think I'll leave that to the service chiefs to answer. But
yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, we need more of ground troops fighting this menace than those bombings you're talking about. Because when you decide to have bombing, it's isolated cases. How many of those people are going to wait for you when you're coming? I mean, you can't tell me that those fighter jets don't make any noise when they are arriving. You understand? They also know. And one of the things that I found very funny in this whole fight is that each time the government is having, or the military are putting up a strategy on to fight with, they come on air to announce what next they're going to do. I do not see any logic in that. You're telling me if I'm a bandit, you're telling me you're going to strike in another 1 week, you're going to flush me out. What do you think I will do? I will go to the open field and wait for you there? Nothing is making sense in the long run. You're buying fighter jets, then everything is all over the media to say this is the strategy you are adopting. Now, by the next 1 week, you are going into Suso Forest. This is what you're going to be doing. You already put in every of your strategy to their, on their table. So what do you expect? So really, I do not see any logic in most of those things. You buy fighter jets, fine. What is the strategy you are adopting in using those fighter jets? I thought these are trained people who went to school to learn about these things. And there should be some secrecy to some of these things. We're tired of noise from the government angle. We want results. And you see, when you're producing results, you don't need to make noise about it. The people will go to town and talk about you that, wow, did you notice this is happening? Did you notice this is happening? You don't need to come on air and every day you keep telling us about what you're going to do and what you do. Enough of that. If those things are not working, if you say, it's one of your strategy to actually put fear in the hearts of those people, obviously, after how many years you can see that They are not afraid of you. So stop the noise making and go to work. That's our take on that.
Okay, what's your take on evacuating some of the IDP camps?
Say that again.
Your take on evacuating some of the IDP camps?
Yeah, you see, the problem of the IDP camps is actually numerous. We have issues of even people who are supposed to be taking care of them also found in the area of abusing quite a lot of them, and sometimes there's also threats being issued that if you talk, I'm going to eliminate you. You understand? Quite a lot of times, even the military have also been fingered in some of the atrocities being committed in the IDP camps. And I think on their own, even these refugees, I would call them, have also found their way outside the territory of the Northeast, and find themselves in other places. Like in Abuja, you will see, there are quite a number of IDP camps that it wasn't government that actually took them there. They just converged there, and the people recognize that these are IDPs. These are people who came from the war zone, and from time to time you see NGOs, private NGOs going there to actually distribute some items just to alleviate their situation. But you see, in total, we love to see a situation where the government itself is seen to be taking the IDP camps very seriously, whether evacuating or no evacuating. If the government is taking responsibility, sole responsibility of the IDPs, nobody is going to be making noise. You can see from other climes where you don't even need to be their citizens. Just come in and raise your hand and seek for asylum. Do you see the kind of treatment you get if you have genuine grounds to seek for asylum? So really, if the government is saying visibly on ground to say, well, we've not been able to put a stop to the problem that pushed you out of your zone or out of your settlement, but we can also help you to also have a good life, I think that is not going to be an issue if they're on top of it.
Now, there's been clamor for restructuring in the country, both from the south, the north. Some are for it, some are against it. And I would like to get your group's take on it. Do you support restructuring or not?
Okay, you see, the issue of restructuring is sometimes you don't even know whether to answer yes or no. The reason is because I've had different people define their own. It has to be what the group are thinking about restructuring. I tell you one thing for a fact is that from our angle, we welcome the idea of restructuring. We want the country to be restructured. You understand? There's no any big deal. There's no because we have this impression as if the North has always been afraid of restructuring. But I can tell you for a fact that there's nothing like that. We wanted to have, but it has to be properly situated. It has to be properly situated in the sense that every region that is clamoring for restructuring needs to put their cards on the table. Let's go through it together, and understand you very well as to what's your own take or your own intention when you say restructuring. The other group, what are their own take on restructuring? What have they put on ground, on paper to say, this is what we want. This is our own idea of restructuring. Because there are conflicting ideas about this restructuring issue that sometimes you get confused, like as if, is this some of this? Are they just coming from some of these agitations about this? The secessionist agenda, or the real restructuring in the actual sense of restructuring. So really, we are not afraid. We want restructuring, but of course, it has to be looked into holistically. Based on what everybody believes to be restructuring.
Yeah, I would like you to talk a little more on that, agitation for, IPOB and Oduduwa, Republic.
Okay, start with Oduduwa Republic. The man behind the Oduduwa Republic, which is Sunday Igboho, it started well. It started well in the sense that we started talking about the insecurity, which, I mean, the North is even crying more than the Southwest. But, it's a good thing to say you want to defend your territory. You want to defend your people. You don't want your people to be victims of this or that. Nobody was actually saying he shouldn't do that. But you see, he actually didn't know when to quit the stage. He didn't know when the ovation was very loud was actually the time to take a bow or to change strategy. What he was taking is, okay, he's becoming this larger than life paraphernalia around him can actually be cashed on and become some authority in Southwest or in Nigeria at large. And he made that mistake by slipping into the idea of Oduduwa Republic. You started on a good note to say you want to protect your territory. You can be a freedom fighter. You can fight to say, oh, my own people shouldn't be a victim of this. If the people who are actually victimizing them are from this part of the country or the other part of the country, But when you now take that out of context and started talking about Oduduwa Republic, and, you see, all those things are issues that can be dealt with in a more intellectual way, not going the violent way. Because, some people are already seeing you like, you're visiting some villages and you're setting some places ablaze. And then you still want to come back and talk about having an Oduduwa Republic. Is you having Oduduwa Republic going to go the violent way? Is that what you're trying, the message you're trying to pass, or what? So really, they got the whole thing muddled up. And in regards to Nnamdi Kanu, you see, the problem here is that, and I was on a program with his lawyer, somewhere in Abuja, and I told them, I said, look, if you say this man should be released unconditionally, or whatever it is that you're trying to pass across, is that at his own utterance, hundreds of lives have been lost. Are you saying justice is that Nnamdi Kanu be released? Justice is that those people who he has uttered that they should all be slaughtered, they should all go to hell. Is that the definition of justice to you? Because at his utterance, so many people have been killed. You understand? So I do not see any logic in you saying it should be released unconditionally because he's an Nnamdi Kanu. Nobody has monopoly of violence. People, there's a term for consequence management. People should know that per time when they try to instigate, incite, and cause harm to other people, there are consequences attached to that. And that is why it's good to lay a good precedence, to know that it's not just enough for you because you have access to ammunition to begin to set the country on fire. Nnamdi Kanu does not have a single investment in Nigeria, and he does not care about the billions that Igbo people have in northern Nigeria. That is how selfish, selfish leaders, self-centered leaders. I do not see any strategy put in place to say, we really want to secede from Nigeria. We have an economic think tank, and they have been studying this for the past 5 years. And these are resolutions that when we go as a Biafra, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're going to be doing. We have a blueprint already. And, there is not anything in place. I have quite a lot of Igbo friends, even some of them close to Nnamdi Kanu himself. There is nothing on ground. All the strategy they have in place is just to be making noise, regardless of who is being killed through that noise. And so I do not think there's any meaningful point that is going to be passed if you ask them to go kill police officers, some of which also are Igbos. Are you saying this Biafra is much more important than the lives of the people you're wasting, who are also supposedly to be beneficiaries of the Biafra itself? And you yourself, you're killing them. I do not see any sense in that as well. So really, everything needs to be properly situated so that we all understand that there are procedures for all these things. You can go on to study some of these countries who have actually that you dream about. I mean, that you're dreaming of, without there's no any contingency plan in place. I do not see that happening. And even with VDF went about the activities, because down south, you will want to think that, perhaps people are actually complying whenever they issue seat at home. But I got from some of our Igbo friends to say, look, we apply because of fear. Don't even know what's going to happen to you when you go out there. So because of that, quite a lot of us just stay home. You understand? Because you don't know what's going to happen. If they end up coming to vandalize the place and loot your property, why would you want to go out? The compliance is mostly out of fear, but not out of support for what is happening. So really, it is a very difficult time for Nigeria, that every part of the country is having too much on their plates, security-wise. All of those problems are actually man-made, intentional problems that we're having. And so on this agitation issue, I think I'll just tell you that none of them is ready to succeed yet.
Now, there's actually been an agitation, for power shift to the south in 2023, and it's not legal, but they've always been talking about the rotation. But it seems some people are actually not in support of rotation again. Now, people are talking about the numbers. Now, I would like to get the opinion of your group.
Okay, you see, I've also chipped in this quite a lot of places to say politics is known to everyone who is in the game of politicking. It's a game of numbers. It's a game of negotiations. It's a game of building bridges. You understand? If I'm a Yoruba man, I want to become president of Nigeria, I should know who and who to meet, who and who to go into some alliances with. I should know who and who to negotiate with. The problem is when politicians who really know the rules of the game, who knows all the games entails, are actually moving away from playing the game of politicking and issuing threats. It becomes an issue for concern for all of us in Nigeria, because you are a politician. It's not your first time contesting an election. Why do you want to go the route of issuing threats rather than playing politics? You understand? So you can call your friends across Nigeria from different parts of Nigeria to say, well, I'm interested in taking a shot at the presidency. How do you think I can get there? What do you think I can do? What sacrifices do I need to make? If I make you the Minister of Petroleum, do you think it's going to work? No. Don't give me Minister of Petroleum. Give me the Vice President is what I want. And I will deliver this region to you. What do you think? What do you want from my presidency if we eventually win? Well, what I want is the governor of Central Bank. Those are some of the things that happen in politics. And this happened all over the world. You understand? Some of the multi-billionaires you see in the country played more politics even than quite a lot of people on the streets. But they don't make noise about it. Some of these candidates go to them and say, well, let me know your area of interest in your business. If we win this election, what do you want us to do for you? And this is what we also want in return. You understand? So these are some of the things that make up politics. Not some people sitting down somewhere, having a press conference somewhere and issuing threats that is either it goes to social region or the whole place is going to burn down. No. You should leave the threats to terrorist organizations, because that's what they're known for. You understand? And say, oh, if you did not make a Shekau the president of Nigeria, we're going to burn down the whole place. But if it's going to be politics, please go and play it by the rules of the game. That's our take on the issue of agitations about taking it to any part of the country. And when you talk about the unwritten law they had, I mean, that started with PDP. PDP is just one party. The other parties can decide to say they don't want it. But in the spirit of fairness, in the spirit of oneness, everybody can come to table and say, well, a Muslim ticket cannot work in Nigeria because of our diversity. Yoruba ticket cannot work in Nigeria. You cannot have a Hausa man as president and also a Hausa man as vice president in Nigeria. That does not show that you're being fair. So, these are all things that needs to be looked into at their own table, not coming to divide us, to rule us. You understand? Somebody is feeling, oh, I can't win this election, so what do I need to use? I need to use the issue of religion. I say, oh, because I'm not this religion, that's why they don't want me to be. What do you think is going to happen? So we whip sentiment around it quite a lot of times. Some emotional blackmail all over the place, which is not part of the game of politics.
All right, let's talk about the Electoral Act bill. The president, he declined answer to this Electoral Act bill, and he said he got relevant advice from all concerned ministries, departments, and also agencies. And he cited financial security and also legal consequences, saying that that's why he rejected the bill. Now, what do you think about the president's veto, Electoral Act bill?
Well, when he's talking about the people he consulted, you understand, I think some of us already knew where this whole thing is heading. Why did you allow the process to even kickstart ab initio when you know your take on it? I thought they wanted to know the pulse of Nigerians. That was why they wanted to amend the whole thing. The Nigerians have spoken. They have representatives in the House of Assembly. I mean, in the National Assembly. Those representatives also have listened to their constituents to say, this is what the people actually opted for. You understand? This is what the people wanted. And they also pass it across to say, well, from all across the place, this is what the people wanted. I thought they said that democracy is the governance of the people, for the people, by the people themselves. So since you already have your own premeditated idea about the whole thing, you shouldn't even allow it to go through in the first place, because this is dictatorship as far as we're concerned. You want to hear the voice of the people, then the people have spoken, and then you cite some examples. I mean, some reasons why the voice of the people does not matter any longer. I think that is very undemocratic. You understand? But of course, quite a lot of us are not surprised. We've already envisaged it's going to come to this. From the time it started delaying, we already knew that yes, there are pressures. The same people who is consulting with are the same people who don't want it, because when that is in place, the people will not be able to decide their fate any longer. So they prefer it to be just within them. It's just a particular class that dictates everything every time. And, that's how we're going to keep managing it until the right people, God is going to bring the right people there someday that is going to listen to their constituents.
Okay, quickly, I would like you to talk about, open grazing. What's your position on open grazing?
Okay, you see, the issue of open grazing, we've talked about this quite a number of times. To say we're having these issues because government is not active. The people have lost confidence in the government, and that is why there's no anything you announce. Do you know how many committees have been set up on open grazing? What have they come up with? The moment you hear committees are going to be set up in Nigeria, you already know they are embarking on a rocket science. You understand? So people lost confidence, and so everyone seems to take laws into their hands in the long run or try to help themselves. But of course, if the rest of the world is advancing to say, oh, in advanced climes, these are what is obtainable. Do you have the infrastructure over here in Nigeria. If you want to compare Nigeria with another country, to say, oh, this other country is actually practicing reserves and not open grazing, what structures do they have in place? Have you checked the infrastructure and checked the one you have here? Can they work together? I mean, can that same system work on the system? If no is the answer, then you begin to look at what do we need to put in place here to actually, so that we can actually replicate what is happening in that place right here. So if you're overlooking the structures at which those systems are actually being activated on, and talking about, oh, we just need to use replicate that system here, you're going to get it wrong in the long run. So I'll tell you for a fact that we're looking at the situation, because you see, the issue of herdsmen and farmers has been here right from the 60s. It's not something that just started under this administration. And each government will come and, just touch it by the surface and just trash it in the garbage. Another one will come and but you see, while it became at its peak, or while it came to this measure of we witnessed in the past 3 to 1 year, is that the polity have already been overheated. There's so much distrust among citizens. The same people who were living in peace with each other before no longer want to live in peace with each other any longer, because from the top, the body language says we're not one, we're not the same. So everybody is getting that message, and everybody is acting out, flipping out at every little thing. What shouldn't be, what will escalate into destruction of lives and property have been in place. So really, it still boils down, open grazing is just, or no open grazing is just an excuse. There is so much insecurity in the land, and people can come under any guise. It's just like when you have a riot in place, people who want to steal will capitalize on the riot to go and vandalize and just to loot people's properties. You understand? And we saw what happened during the EndSARS. You get it? So the people who actually wanted to steal, who had a motive different from the organizers, cashed in on that and did what they actually wanted to do. And it's the same thing that's happening with the farmers' headers cash. There are criminals already that have infiltrated. Our borders are porous. You understand? You see Fulani headsmen trooping into Nigeria from all angles. And when they are moving, you already know these ones are relocating somewhere. And they come through our borders without no questions being asked. A majority of them are not Nigerians, ab initio. So, and you see, the drive is this, especially what is happening in Zamfara and the environs, is that there's so much money to be made in those places. You understand? So people are coming in and becoming warlords on our territory because of the gold deposits there. Some of our politicians are going outside to recruit some of them to come and help them man their own territory where illegal mining is going on. You understand? So after some time, these people also feel they can break free. They don't need to work under anybody. You understand? So that's why you're having different factions. When there's not much money to be cashed on in those areas, they also move out. It's just like you're hunting. They move out to just acquire some other money else in other places by either kidnapping and taking money for ransom or something, and return back to base, once they have enough money to buy ammunition. So really, these are just flimsy excuses covering up the whole insecurity issue, that we're seeing.
2023 is coming, and Nigerians are looking forward to the election. But as the Buhari's led administration is actually winding down, what is it not looking forward to?
Well, we're looking for people who have what it takes to leave this country, people who have what it takes to move Nigeria forward. I'm sure quite a lot of people have learned their lessons, even though the hard way, through the Buhari's administration. This was the same people who came in, cried, sympathized with people on what they're going through, and they participated in protests. Nobody shot at them. Nobody arrested them. They did all manner of things while in opposition that you would think that these people actually have learned so much from outside there that this is the time to move Nigeria forward. But unfortunately, they took us back by another 30 years. We're not going to be moved by any emotions any longer. We're no longer going to be blackmailed. There's no any emotional blackmail is going to work on us this time around. We're going for people who have proven, who have track records of achievements. You understand? Not people who are non-achievers all their lives. All what they ever achieved in their lives is that they were collecting salary. They're working and you know how the system is in Nigeria. We want to see people who have done very well for themselves. You understand? Who have things to show to us that are verifiable. We're going to take our time this time around, and the president can come from anywhere. I must tell you the fact. Because if we look inward and we can't find any, we're going to look outward to go and shop for a candidate that is going to move Nigeria forward. So that's really our take.
Thank you very much.
We're after results this time around, and by the grace of God, we're hoping we're going to get it right, because this country will have to work. It has to work, and it's going to work.
Yes, definitely.
That's our take.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ismail Musa, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and he's the Director of Strategic Communication for Coalition of Northern Groups, and he just gave us some of the opinions of the CNG. Now, to get more of our top stories and things going on around the world, you can visit our website www.vanguardngr.com. Also follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen, on Facebook, Instagram, and also our YouTube channel. I'm Damlola Okunshakin. It's bye from me on Lunchtime Discuss.